Hi folks, welcome back. So in today's lecture we're going to be discussing the central bank dealers range. So before I even start this lecture, I want to preface by saying don't look for too much precision using the central bank dealers range. I will explain later on what it's about, but many of the private mentorship students under ICT really struggled with this one, and I myself spent years delving into it. And what I found was, if you use the central bank dealers range as a sort of guide and not look for the precision, but like sort of a roadmap to help discover where the market is likely to go, it's a decent tool to use in your trading. A lot of people don't use it, and it's not required to be a profitable trader. This is just to help with precision and help with understanding where the market's likely to go. So let's get into it. What is the central bank dealers range? It's a time macro that dictates price projections for IBDR. It's based on mathematically derived standard deviations of price, and often the cbdr projections will set the high and the low of the day. It's only specific to FX, so it won't work in the futures market or the crypto market. So the central bank dealers range, what attributes are we looking for to have a valid central bank dealers range? Number one, it has to be in a consolidated range. If it's going to be a big range, we don't want to use it. It should be between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It should be less than 40 pips, ideally between 20 and 30 pips, but it can be as low as 15. We allow up to a 5 pip variance between the highs and lows that we're looking for. Usually it's less than this, but we allow up to 5 pips. So you've seen this by now. I've added in the central bank dealers range, so between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. we have Asia, London, New York and London close. So if we're in an underlying bullish market profile, as you're used to by now, and we have our expansion move higher into the central bank dealers range, which we should find as a consolidated range profile. Now, what ICT teaches us is to use the bodies and the wicks to calibrate the central bank dealers range. So first I take wick to wick, and then how I calibrate the central bank dealers range is I look at the previous day's swing points. If they're in close proximity to the standard deviations of the central bank dealers range, which I will explain in a minute, then this is a good way to calibrate whether we're going to be using the bodies or the wicks of the central bank dealers range. Now, number one, we want to look if it's a valid central bank dealers range, so it should be in a consolidation profile or not a really large range move. It should be between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It should be less than 40 pips and greater than 20 pips. Can go as low as 15 pips, but we like to use 20 pips and above. Once we have our criteria for a valid central bank dealers range, and we have done our projections with the wicks and the bodies and found confluences with previous day's swing points, we now have our likely high and low of the day formed from the central bank dealers range. So I'll explain this now. We have our Asian range. So typically if you're trading the Asian range, you should look for the highs and the lows of the central bank dealers range to be swept. Once we arrive at midnight New York, we should look to our expansion leg, because if we're in a bullish market profile, we ideally want to buy below the midnight New York opening price. So if we take 2 standard deviations down, this is just as an example of the central bank dealers range, and we have confluence with the premium discount array in our expansion leg. Remember, this can be old highs, order blocks, fair value gaps, mitigation blocks, breaker blocks. You should know what these are by now. And with the power of 3 concept, we're looking to buy below the opening price if we're in a bullish market environment. We have our accumulation phase, our manipulation phase, power of 3 concept, and now we have 2 standard deviations of the central bank dealers range, which also has confluence with our premium discount array levels in our expansion leg. generally on a bullish day we're going to form the low in London. Now we look for our targets. We have our higher time frame draw on liquidity or a fair value gap above the market, which we're aiming for since we are in a bullish market profile. Our first area, we should concentrate on the buy side liquidity above the Asian range highs. One standard deviation of the central bank dealers range takes us above the Asian range highs. This is a great area to take partials. We'll never know for certain if we're going to reverse and go lower to attack the London lows. So if you want to have a long career as a trader, taking partials is essential. To give us an insight as to whether the market wants to move higher or not is to do with time. As you can see, we haven't come to our draw on liquidity and we're in the New York session. Normally, we will find our high of the day if we're in a bullish market profile to form in London close. 3 standard deviations of the central bank dealers range comes into an area where we expect price to go into to reach for our draw on liquidity. Price moves higher into London close and we tag 3 standard deviations with our premium discount array and our draw on liquidity. So normally we're looking for a fair value gap above the market on a higher time frame or an old high with buy side liquidity above it. After taking this, we see the market sell off and go into the close of the day.